coming back to Wayne's Law School and just coming through the court, I was still looking for the police to arrest me, John, after 35 years for false arrest. Some of the professors when we locked up the law school back in 1975. So, but I think I've gained my composure.
The statute of limitations is running.
Oh, thank you. I want to thank the Guild, which has been, I've been a fellow traveler. Sometimes I pay my dues and sometimes I don't. I've certainly been involved in enough Guild fights over the years, and also Sugar Law Center fights around environmental justice. We have several lawyers here today who are involved in the water case. In fact, if you're here, would you please stand? It'll be most of us who have our ticket. Jerry Goldberg, Kurt Thornbladh, John Philo, Julie Hurwitz, Denise Herberly, anybody else here that we're missing? John Royal. So I mean, you're here with Guild lawyers who have taken this water fight. Actually, the people took the fight to the doorsteps of the courthouse. It was Jerry's wife, Chris, who heard Judge Rhodes and goaded him into bringing the DWSD into the bankruptcy. And in a period of about 4 days, we literally hoisted a rope and climbed up into the belly of the beast known as the Detroit bankruptcy. So we filed a complaint, I think it was on a Sunday night about 1:30 in the morning. For those of you who would like to practice relevant law, you should know there's no such thing as a 9-to-5 job. I just left the office after 38 years of practice about 3:30 this afternoon to after being there getting ready for some civil rights litigation against Detroit Edison. So it is a lifestyle. It is not a career for those of you Guild folks that younger lawyers who are here who want to take it on. I want to really thank Nicole Hill for having the courage to stand up and be a part of this litigation. And what it has taken for her and 9 other families to become a part of this class action litigation, as well as Michigan Welfare Rights, Moratorium Now, the National Action Network, the Michigan chapter, and the People's Water Board has been profound indeed. I have here about 20 copies of the congressional briefing I did in Washington, D.C. 2 weeks ago now, and it's basically a summary of the struggle that really grew out of the bankruptcy. And Jerry Goldberg, who I've known since we were teenagers practically, and he's been with our law firm off and on and still is on several of our cases. We're real proud of him. But it's Kurt Thornbladh who thought of the theory, a creative theory of bankruptcy to allow us to get into the bankruptcy court. And the morning we walked into court, we didn't know what was happening, what was going to happen. The judge called us to side. He said he had read the complaint. The court, they did put a moratorium on the shutoffs for about 5 weeks. There were thousands of families that were able to enter into payment agreements. They did not go far enough. They have not gone far enough. We then had several rounds of mediation where we tried to settle the case in terms of putting together a comprehensive and concise set of rules and regulations on when people could be shut off. And this is really the story of how the intransigent nature of power not wanting to give a bit has caused a further backlash. So now what we're doing, we're going to Washington, D.C. We're writing national legislation on water affordability and a bill of consumer rights for water consumption and use and sewage around the country. And we are working in Lansing right now to put together a comprehensive, concise piece of legislation that addresses affordability so that Nicole Hill and people around this city and the state of Michigan will be able to have water. You see, folks, water is the new oil, water is the new gold, and if we don't fight for it right here, right now, it will be privatized, and this bottle of water that we've got sitting here now will be about $50. And we will have people selling water with armed guards standing around to make sure that people don't steal it. California, if they don't get snow, if they don't figure out what to do, they're gonna be running out of water in 1 year. Arizona, similarly situated, Hawaii, and other places around the country, we have got to draw the line in the sand now, because if you don't have water for young babies, for pregnant women, you don't live. You really don't thrive. The organs of a young child that's not getting enough water are not going to develop properly. For a senior citizen can go from being hydrated to not hydrated and dead in 2 days without water. So what we're talking about here, we've talked about Ferguson, we've talked about police misconduct and death by bullets, but this is death by 1,000 drops. And if we look at this as being one of the most profound and serious civil rights and human rights violations that is occurring and will occur if we don't get ahead of it. If there is not an army of lawyers all over the country, around the world, in fact. Our amicus brief, we're now in appeal in front of Judge Bernie Friedman. If we have lawyers who have weighed in, and Judge Friedman did allow them to file an amicus brief from all over the world, a group of several dozen lawyers. Our team is about 28 lawyers strong. They're all over the country. The Guild nationally and the state branches involved, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the ACLU, the Sugar Law Center. I mean, we've got the lawyers for our times working on this case. I just want to say that in addition to the UN coming in to address this issue and finding that Detroit's water shutoff policy was a human rights crisis and a retrograde event. And that's why our legislation we're creating is counterintuitive at a time when they're taking back the Civil Rights Voting Rights Act, and they're looking at Elliot Larson to take that away for us to come out forward, pushing for something that is for human right, dignity, and respect is counterintuitive in this time. We will need all of you. This is probably going to be a fight that I had a grandchild born on February 7th and this year. And he will probably still be fighting this water issue when I'm gone. But we've got to know now, and we've got to draw the line now, and we've got to see around corners that this is what's going to be happening. Right now, as we stand up here, we are moving for an expedited hearing in the appeal. There is going to be 28,000 more shutoffs in May. There will be 10,000 approximately shutoffs that apparently that they say are people who are stealing water. But how can you steal water if you need water to live? The necessity defense that Julie Hurwitz is going to bring for the Hombridge 9, which will take place sometime this spring. Please stay tuned for that as well, because if you need water, just like the grapes of wrath and back in the day and with the Great Depression, if you stole a loaf of bread, you could go in and say, but Judge, my family couldn't eat but for me taking this bread. We're there, and when these criminal cases start getting filed against people and their water apparatus dug up out of the ground, it's gonna be important that there are lawyers like us, relevant lawyers, radical lawyers, as Jerry calls them, who will stand and fight the good fight. So with that said, we're still in the trenches. We've moved on. The litigation is to educate, it is to agitate, it is to litigate, and now we're gonna legislate, and we're gonna keep on pushing. Thank you.
We have 15 more minutes.
All right, any questions, comments, suggestions, complaints? Back over.
Yeah, quick